Okay, party people, today I am so excited to be sharing with you this next value that we're going to unpack, lean into, and learn a little bit more about. It's something that both presents challenge and reward in ways that we can't find it anywhere else in this life. The topic and the value that we're unpacking today is collaboration. And deep embedded within that is how do we communicate with one another. So my take on collaboration is this. I want to paint a picture for you really quick before I just give you the nuts and bolts of it. So for me, when I think of collaboration, I relate it a lot to music. When you are a part of a team or when you're a part of a band or something where everyone comes together, you have to settle on the foundational things. So within music, before you play a song together, you've got to agree that we're in this key. We are in the key of G or whatever it is. Like this is the key we're in. You have to agree on that. You also have to agree on the rhythm. Like this is the pace. This is how we're going to flow through this thing together. So you have to agree on that. And then also what is important is that you agree on the vibe or the message that you're trying to communicate. Because even if you're in an orchestra and it's, music without words, you're still agreeing that this is the story that this piece is telling. Well, when you are working with an organization or with a project team or just a team altogether, everybody has a part to play and those can be really unique, and we're going to talk about that. But at the foundation, we have to agree on some things that say, hey, this is the level playing field. This is what we can all agree on. In music, it's rhythm and vibe, and it's having those things that we can all go, yeah, let's do that. But in a team, it's agreeing on this is what our values are. This is what our goals are. This is what is most important to us. And that's really the foundation. The amazing thing is that if everyone and when everyone can agree on those things, you can have every kind and any kind of instrument that you want to join the party. As long as they are agreeing on those foundational things, everyone is welcome to fit in and to find their place within the music. The same thing goes for a team. Anyone can be an important, pivotal, a valuable team player, regardless of their personality, regardless of their leadership type, regardless of those things, they can be a really valuable team player if and when we all come together on those foundational things. And the art of those things coming together, like there's not just all guitar players in a band, there's guitar players and bass players and drummers. And when everyone comes together, there's room at the table for every single person. And that's collaboration. As well, within collaboration, there is this I would say there's a bit of it that's intuition, that maybe some people know intuitively, like how to work with others and how to like give and take and things like that. But more than that, it's how we learn to collaborate well together. So being honest and saying, these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses. And if something is not my strength, then I'm going to let somebody else take the lead and I'm going to let them pull us forward, so to speak. Even if I'm the main leader at the table, I'm not going to be an expert at everything. So I'm going to want to consult the experts. I'm going to want to bring their voice in and not just bring it in to my ear, but really elevate them so that other people can hear their voice as well and to hear the value that they bring to the table. That is what is so special about collaboration. People are a gift. Like you are a gift to this world. So before you were born, life was a gift that was given to you. There was collaboration by your parents, and your life is a gift. In the same way, other people's lives around us are a gift. And it is up to us in this life, whether we squander the gift, whether we waste it, or whether we feed it, we grow it, we make the most of our life. In the same way, the people around you that you work with and that you are in partnership with, they are a gift to you. So how are you collaborating and how are you tending to that gift in your life? Okay, I'm going to define collaboration right now. Merriam-Webster, what is collaboration as a value? It is this: collaboration is working jointly with others or together, especially in an intellectual endeavor. The second one, but not to be missed, is cooperating with or willingly assisting an enemy, one's country, or an occupying force. It's cooperating with an agency or instrumentally. I think it's interesting that it says instrumentally. So in other words, it's not just cooperating and working with people that you like. It actually goes way beyond that, even at the root of its definition. It means working with people that may have opposing views than you, but coming to an agreement on this is the goal that we both have. We have interest in this thing. And so we are going to choose to not only work together, but come together around this thing, cooperate with one another, collaborate with one another to that end. So some antonyms, or I would say some enemies of collaboration are this. The top of the list is disassociation. So when somebody separates themselves mentally and says, I am not a part of this thing. Like if you are separating yourself from a team or a partnership, you are not just not collaborating well, you are on the opposite end of collaborating. You're not collaborating at all. So disassociation. Within that as well is disillusion. So again, separating, but sometimes separating secretly. You know, this is like that quiet quitting where it's like I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm here physically, I'm mentally not here. So it can kind of be a secret disassociation in that matter, disillusionment. It can also mean to break up, which of course, if you're like, I'm done, we're splitting ways, splitting ties, of course, that is a separation and on the opposite end of collaborating. Also within that, the last two is division. And so this kind of speaks to when you take others with you. So you're not just leaving or mentally leaving even, but you are bringing other people along. And that can really cause division and strife within teams and partnerships. And then last but not least is the simplest term, which is separation. And you probably heard me say that in all the other ones in some way, shape, or form. To not collaborate means that you are separating. So if collaboration is done really well and we are cohesive, we are working together, there's synergy, all the words, then you are not separate. You're working together, you're very much in sync in a lot of different ways. And so to be separate is the opposite of collaboration. And I think that's really important because sometimes we can lie to ourselves and say, I'm mentally separating myself from this. But in doing that, you might think, but I'm still collaborating. But honestly, if we're truly honest with what this means, that means to do that is that we are putting ourselves on the other side of that pendulum and we are not collaborating well. I mean, if you're like me, even as I'm talking through this, I'm thinking of examples in professional and personal life, even within family, where people can think, no, I'm a part of this, I'm collaborating well, but in reality, they have completely separated themselves from what we agreed on, from the foundation that we're trying to build on. And so understanding what collaboration is great, but I think one up from that is understanding exactly what it is not, so that we don't feed into the lie that says that we can separate ourselves and still be collaborating. It's on the opposite end of the pendulum. So how are we going to come together better? How are we going to handle it when hiccups happen, when we disagree, when we're having really trouble seeing eye to eye on some of even the fringe decisions? There's a guy named Mike Rutherford. He's from the band Genesis. If you've never heard of them or you don't know any of their music, I would suggest listening to the song I Can't Dance. It's like my favorite of theirs from my childhood even. So, but he has a great quote. So he says that being in a band is always a compromise. Always. Being a part of a team is always a compromise. Always. Not a day goes by that you're not going to be in compromise or be compromising in one way or another if you're on a team or in a partnership or something like that. Being in a band is always a compromise, provided that the balance is good. What you lose in compromise, you gain by collaboration. Now, I do want to just specify this, because when I use the word compromise, sometimes it can have a negative connotation, because we use it and hear it a lot of times, and they're compromising their values, or they're compromising what's most important to them. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when we agree on the foundation and the values, we agree on the ethical interests and what's right and wrong. When we can agree on those things, then the fringe things that are up for discussion, you might feel really strongly about one, but so might somebody else, and be completely ethical, and on the other side of it, be amoral in it, so to speak. And so being able to compromise on those things is what we're talking about. You know, if you are going out to eat, or you want to go out to eat with your family, and you say, what should we eat? And someone says, I want this kind of food, I want that kind of food, I want this kind of food. What do you have to do? Like, it's not wrong. Nobody's wrong in wanting what they want, but we have to come to a compromise. So in the same way, when you're working with a team, it's having that understanding that you're going to have to compromise some of the things that you want, and you might even think that you need, quote unquote, but to be able to compromise and to keep what's foundational is what collaboration is all about. So there's some common ideas that we're all familiar with. You know, this is not something new that nobody has heard of, is talking about collaboration. But the common ideas, they're special. And the reason why they're common is because they're true and they're good. One of the common ideas is that there's strength in numbers. And that's absolutely true. We're better together, period. Like, if you and I can agree on things and we can be on the same team, like, the more we come together, the stronger of a force we become for good. So there's strength in numbers. Also, the burden is lighter when it's shared. You know, that's a common idea, and it's so true. Like, if I'm carrying a heavy log and a heavy load, and somebody else comes along and they say, here, I'll carry the load with you, immediately my load gets lighter. So we can do more and carry more of a load together. So when we're working together, when we're collaborating on something, common idea, because it's very true and good. Another one that's maybe not as talked about is that there is collective intelligence when we come together. We all want to believe that we are super smart, and that when we know something, we know it. Like, there's nothing that can prove us wrong. But when you've lived long enough and you've been in enough meetings and conversations, you know that you are highly capable of thinking that you are 1,000% right. And then lo and behold, time and time again, you find out, I was wrong. I thought I was so right, and I was wrong. And maybe it's because there was misinformation, or maybe it's because you weren't seeing the whole picture or something like that. But nevertheless, we can be wrong in our perspective and our opinion. And so when we come together, we have the power of collective intelligence. If there's an accident in an intersection, and I'm, at the stoplight, and somebody else is behind the person where the light was green, we're going to have a completely different perspective of that accident. So I might think I know exactly what happened and who's at fault. But when you have collective intelligence, you're able to actually see things from multiple facets and different perspectives. And so you're able to have a greater intelligence on the matter itself, whether it be an accident, a problem, a project, or something like that. There is power in collective intelligence. And then last but not least, a common one is collective innovation. We innovate better when we innovate together. And that could not be truer. And I don't want to get into that one too much, because that's where we're going to be going in our our next episode. But we're talking about collaboration, and there is power when we come together to innovate together. There was a Deloitte study that was done a few years back, and it found that 73% of employees who engage in collaborative work report improved performance. To made a choice to say, I'm going to engage in collaborative work, that they said that they have improved performance personally and collectively. That is huge. Are you hearing me? It's not even like 50-50. It's 73%. It goes on to say, while 60% of those who engage in collaborative work say that it sparks their innovation. So one idea leads to another, and it gets better and better and more refined as we talk about it and collaborate together. Okay, so those are kind of the good things about collaboration. Now let's talk about really quick what hinders collaboration on teams. And these are things that I want you to listen and go, I recognize that, and really kind of take a survey as, do I see these things at work in my team or in my partnerships, however you want to apply it to your own work and life. So the first one is this: what hinders? Past or reoccurring unequal partnership loads. So when someone experiences those unequal partnership loads in the past, it can be really jarring for that person and scarring in a way that then when they go to work in another team or engage in another partnership, that if the other person or if that team sends up any red flag that looks like unequal work or unequal load, that something is triggered within that person, and then they go, this isn't good. Like I've got to be defensive. So then they become protective. So when someone has had those experiences, it can be really damaging to collaboration, and it can hinder it in the future. And so at this point, I would encourage you to kind of check your own self, because if you've been on teams enough, and if you've been in enough different work environments, you're going to have had those experiences where there's unequal load, unequal partnerships. And so I would encourage you to kind of check yourself and say, how am I handling that? Am I allowing triggers to really cause me to stop collaborating, when really what is best for me in this team is to continue on, basically to do it afraid anyway? So that can be a hindrance to partnerships. Another thing that can be a big hindrance to teams and collaboration is fear of compromise. I love what the guitarist from the band Genesis said: what you lose in compromise, you gain in collaboration. So when you need to compromise on some things, when you're in a meeting and you think you're right and you really want it to be best, and you think it's the best way, but kind of everyone's collectively collaborating and saying, no, we're going to go this direction, that can be a really, really tough pill to swallow. And because of that, we fear compromise. And when we fear compromise, we withhold our collaboration. And so that can be a really big hindrance to us. But please don't forget that whatever you lose in compromise, you will gain in collaboration. Okay, the last couple that can hinder collaboration is the Titanic syndrome and poor communication skills. So the Titanic syndrome is something that is talked about a lot within C-suite leaders and places like that. But basically it means this: we all know why the Titanic sunk, whether you've seen the movie or you've read it in history books. The Titanic sunk not because it didn't have like the best captains and it wasn't the best ship. In fact, it did have the best captains, the best crew, and it was the best ship of its time. And so it had all the notoriety to say it was the best, that there was nothing, they would even call it unsinkable. And yet it was that pride in and of itself that caused them to not heed the warnings of the people who were out there in the mix saying, you better watch out. There's icebergs up ahead. Well, they thought, no, we've got the best ship, the best captains. Well, guess what? That pride is what led to their downfall. And in the same way, Titanic syndrome can hinder and really stifle collaboration on teams, not just from the top down, but from the bottom up. When we allow pride to get in the way of listening to each other, of allowing people to come together at the table, we set ourselves up, if not in that moment, then down the line for that Titanic syndrome, to say we're not going to heed any warnings, we're not going to listen to the advice. And so if you feel that within yourself, that you're not listening and you feel like you can't listen to anyone else because you know everything, like check yourself, because we don't want to find ourselves in that Titanic syndrome, in a place of loss when we could have saved ourselves by listening to others well in advance. And that last one, poor communication skills. I call these ball skills, all right? When I wrote my book and when I started doing trainings, I really wanted to come up with a way that had handles and could be memorable, because we all have that trigger that pops up when a crisis happens. It's that fight, flight, freeze. And we all have it, whatever was natural to you or whatever is more innate within your personality or upbringing, it's there, it's real. We all have it. We might as well not deny it. But in order to have good collaboration, we have to be conscious. So when a problem comes up, or when there is conflict on a project, when there's conflict with a collaboration or with a team, you're going to have that knee-jerk reaction. Some people just shut down, wah, 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 and they can't communicate any longer. Other people, when that crisis happens, they're like, get me out of here. Like, I want to run. Other people say, I'm going to fight. Like, I'm not going to listen. My dukes are up and it's go time, right? So if we want to collaborate well, what this ball strategy teaches us is to take a deep breath, breathe, ask some good questions, listen, and then listen more. And there's 2 L's, because we got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We need to listen more than we speak. And I have found that even though I want to hear everyone's opinion, I'm also quick to jump in when I think I've heard enough. And so often, what it's taken me years to understand is that when I think it's time for me to jump in, I could be right there on the brink of hearing the best line and really the root of the problem from the person I'm listening to. And sometimes it takes an awkward pause and one more question saying, is there anything else you want to add? Because it's crazy how so many people, and myself included, it might take a minute to get to the real root of the issue. And so when we learn how to ball, to breathe, to ask good questions, listen, and then listen more, it's a good strategy to communicate better, but it's also a good strategy to collaborate at the best of our ability when we listen to one another. Okay, so in closing, how can we better support and build teams and partnerships of collaboration? Number 1, we can build that foundation. We can make sure that it's steady, it's strong, and it's firm. Reaffirm your values. Reaffirm, this is what we are all about. These are the goals that we all have together, and this is our vested interest together. The second thing is use your strengths to contribute. If you are withholding your strengths, not only are you cheating the people out on your team by not bringing your best, but also you're cheating yourself. I mean, think about when you're most confident, when you are the happiest. It's when you are bringing your strengths. It's when you're doing something you're good at. And so bring your strengths to collaboration, because when you do that, you're going to be happier, you're going to be more confident, and you're going to be bringing your strengths and your best to the team, which I guarantee is what they want. And so speak the truth, bring your best, and do it kindly, of course, in the process. Encourage others around you in that same line of thinking. Encourage them to bring their strengths. I mean, it doesn't even have to be something that's on their job description. If somebody has a technical job, but they're also a strong encourager, and you know that about them, but they're not bringing that strength into meetings and into the team, encourage them to bring that strength, because not only will the team benefit, but so will they as they bring that to the table and to the forefront of their days. And then last but not least, do your work and do it with excellence. Sometimes it's not about feeling good, especially when it comes to collaboration and compromise. It's not going to feel good. It's just simply not. If you want something to be a specific way and it's not going your way, it's not going to feel good. But even in that situation, and especially in that situation, you've got to make a choice that I'm still going to bring my best. I'm still going to bring and work with excellence in every part of this project and every part of this team that I touch. Because when you bring your work with excellence, you're going to be better because of it, not just the team. It's kind of like that bringing your strengths. When you stop bringing excellence, you're going to be less fulfilled. You're going to be not as happy. You're not going to have feel a greater sense of purpose. But when you bring excellence, especially when it's hard, especially when you're coming out of something and you had to compromise what you really wanted, like that is when you need to really dig your heels in, not in a stubborn way when it comes to negativity, but dig your heels in and say, I don't care that I had to compromise. I'm still going to bring excellence and I'm still going to bring my best. I hope this encourages you. I know it was a little bit challenging. It's always a challenge to me to talk about this because we're all so unique. But again, coming back to that musical illustration, there is a room for everyone at the table. When we agree on those foundational things, there's going to be times when we're taking the lead and we're really shining. There's going to be other times when we're just supporting. We're supporting somebody else on the team. And so wherever you find yourself today, do it with excellence, keep collaborating well and growing in those partnerships and in this value of collaboration. Thank you so much for listening, and I truly hope to see you back here soon.